We tend to think of success, in sports and business, pretty much everywhere, as being about raw talent, high IQ, natural ability, that sort of thing.
Right.
But what if the single biggest factor for growth isn't how much talent you have, but what you actually believe about it?
That is the exact question at the core of all the research by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck. Her work on mindset it's more than just a theory. It's really a blueprint for how we deal with life's biggest challenges.
So, our mission in this deep dive is to get past the simple definitions. We want to give you the framework, sure, but then really focus on the consequences. How do these mindsets play out in the real world?
Exactly. We're looking at how your beliefs, your core beliefs, change the meaning of everything: effort, failure, challenges. This is really about understanding how to shift from, defending who you are to constantly focusing on who you could become.
Okay, so before we get to the real world impacts, let's just make sure we're all on the same page, the two architectures. Let's start with the fixed mindset.
The fixed mindset,
hmm
it runs on this idea of permanence. It's the belief that your fundamental qualities, your intelligence, your personality, even your character, are static,
Set in stone.
carved in stone, as Dweck says. You're dealt a hand of cards, and that's it. That's your limit.
And the implication of that is huge. If your intelligence is fixed, then every single test, every piece of criticism becomes a judgment on your total worth.
Yes. So your whole goal becomes about proving yourself
Yeah.
over and over to prove you're smart, prove you're talented. It leads to some really destructive behaviors.
It's a constant state of defense.
A perpetual psychological defense. Absolutely. Someone with a fixed mindset sees a failure not as an event, but as a verdict, a final public judgment on their lack of ability.
Okay, so contrast that with the growth mindset.
The growth mindset sees those same qualities not as fixed, but as potentials. It's the belief that, yes, you can cultivate your abilities, you can strengthen them through effort, through better strategies, and importantly, with help from other people.
So it's not saying everyone starts at the same place.
No, not at all. Dweck is very clear about that. Initial aptitudes differ, of course. But the core belief is that anyone can grow and change through experience and hard work. It frees you from that idea that you're either born a genius or you're not.
So one framework forces you to play defense to protect your status, which puts a cap on your potential.
Right.
And the other one encourages you to play offense, to learn, to engage, which basically makes your potential unknowable.
And that difference in strategy is what brings us to the behavioral impact. It's just fascinating how these subtle beliefs completely change how we handle difficulty.
Yeah, let's dig into that. How do these two mindsets process failure? Because the difference is profound. For the fixed mindset, like you said, a failure becomes an identity.
It's immediate. The thought process is, I failed,
Yeah.
and that instantly becomes, I am a failure.
And that feeling, that shame is so powerful.
It's so powerful, it triggers avoidance.
Yeah.
The person will start making excuses, blaming the test, blaming the manager, blaming the market. Or, and this is the really tragic part, they just stop trying.
They stop taking on challenges.
Exactly. Why would you risk doing something if the outcome might reveal this permanent flaw inside you? The real tragedy isn't the failure, it's the avoidance of the hard work that could have led to success.
But the growth mindset sees failure completely differently. It's just data.
It's information. A problem to be solved, analyzed. It informs your next move. It doesn't define who you are. The thinking is, okay, that didn't work. I need a new strategy, or I need to work harder.
This is where it gets really interesting, this idea of effort. Because the fixed mindset is almost suspicious of effort.
Deeply suspicious. It's a paradox.
Mhm.
If you were really a natural, if you were truly smart, things would just come easily. Effort is a bad sign.
Needing to work hard is proof that you're deficient. It's proof you don't have the talent to begin with.
Right. And you see this with bright students who just coast, and then they hit a really hard class and they panic.
Yeah.
Because the struggle itself feels like proof they aren't smart after all.
Which is just such a limiting belief.
It's a career ender. Because in the growth mindset, the opposite is true. Effort isn't the enemy of talent. It's what creates talent. Effort is the path. That's what rewires your brain. That's what makes you smarter over time.
It's the difference between seeing effort as a cost versus seeing it as an investment. And you see this everywhere.
Let's talk about sports.
Yeah.
Look at someone like Michael Jordan. The world saw him and just said, natural talent, born with it.
But Dweck's work argues his incredible success was a direct result of his growth mindset. We don't focus on the thousands of hours of grueling practice. Jordan was obsessive. When he failed, he didn't hide, he analyzed.
He would spend an entire offseason working on one shot he missed in a key game.
He treated his failures like a to-do list for getting better.
Exactly. And you can contrast that with so many athletes who have maybe even more raw physical talent. They hit a wall, a point where getting better requires humility and boring hard practice, and they just plateau. The fear of losing, or even the shame of needing to practice so hard, is too much.
They protect their reputation as a natural.
And we see that same pattern in business. The mindset of the leader really defines the entire company culture.
How so?
Dweck uses the example of a fixed mindset leader, like Leah Ayakaka at Chrysler. They tend to create a genius culture. The leader has to be the smartest person in the room, the one with all the answers.
And when everything depends on the leader's genius, what does that do to the employees?
It makes them afraid. They're afraid to bring up problems, to admit mistakes, to challenge the leader's ideas, because errors are seen as a sign of personal weakness, not a chance for the organization to learn. So problems get hidden.
Until they explode.
Right. Now, compare that to a growth mindset leader. She points to Lou Gerstner, who took over IBM when it was near bankruptcy. He didn't have a tech background, and he wasn't afraid to say, I don't know.
So he shifted the culture.
Immediately. Away from a culture of being smart to a culture of becoming smart. He valued teamwork, honest feedback, learning. His focus wasn't on his ego, it was on turning the ship around. Together. He made it safe to make a mistake as long as you learned from it.
This framework is so powerful, and it applies to our personal lives too, to relationships.
Oh, absolutely. We bring these mindsets right into our partnerships.
A fixed relationship mindset.
Right.
What does that look like?
It's the belief in perfection, that a good relationship shouldn't be hard work. Your partner should just get you. If there's conflict, it means the whole thing is broken.
So you see your partner's flaws as permanent traits. He's just lazy, or she's always disorganized.
Exactly, and that leads to despair. Why bother trying to work on something if you believe the person can't change?
Whereas the growth mindset in a relationship is completely different.
It assumes that a healthy partnership requires constant effort. It requires communication and learning about each other. It sees a challenge not as a sign the relationship is doomed, but as an opportunity to understand each other better and grow closer. You both believe you can change and adapt.
So understanding where these mindsets even come from is, well, it's critical if you want to change them.
It is. And Dweck's research shows they're often formed in childhood, based on the kind of praise we get.
This is the part that hits home for any parent. The danger of praising intelligence. You tell a kid, wow, you're so smart.
And you think you're helping, but you're accidentally pushing them into a fixed mindset. They learn that their value is tied to that label, smart.
And then what happens?
They become terrified of anything that might make them look not smart. They'll avoid challenges. They'll pick the easier puzzle to protect that identity. They stop taking risks.
So if praising ability is bad, what should we be praising?
The process. You praise the process. Praise the actions they took. So instead of, you're brilliant at that puzzle, you say, I saw how hard you worked on that puzzle, or that was a really clever strategy you used.
That one little shift changes everything. It teaches that success is in your control. It's about effort and strategy, not some magic quality you were born with.
But the best news in all of this is that your mindset isn't permanent. You can change it. Dweck lays out a really practical 4-step process for anyone to start today.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1 is just learning to hear your fixed mindset voice. That internal narrator, the voice that says, what if you fail? Or makes excuses, it's not my fault. You have to learn to recognize its script.
Step 2 is realizing you have a choice.
Exactly. When that voice pipes up after a setback, you can choose how to interpret it. Is this proof of a permanent flaw, or is it just a signal to try a different approach?
Then step 3 is the big one. You have to talk back.
Talk back with a growth mindset voice. And it often comes down to adding one simple word. If your fixed voice says, I can't do this, you just add the word yet.
I can't do this yet.
That one word changes everything. It turns a permanent state into a temporary one. It puts the focus on the future.
And the final step, step 4.
You have to take the growth mindset action. Don't just think differently, act differently. If the voice says avoid the challenge, you take on the challenge. If it says ignore the feedback, you go seek out feedback. The action is what locks in the new belief.
So to bring this all back for you, the listener, it seems the mindset you choose is probably the single most powerful factor in how you approach life.
It determines whether you hide from challenges to protect your ego or whether you seek them out as fuel to learn and grow.
It's the difference between being obsessed with who you are and getting excited about who you could become.
Right. Dweck's work really shows that your potential is not some fixed thing inside you. It's unknown. It's unknowable. It's an outcome of how you choose to live.
And that's really the final thought to leave you with. A passion for stretching yourself, for sticking with something when it's really hard. That's the true mark of growth. So just think, what hidden potential could you unlock this week simply by hearing that fixed voice and answering it with one word? I get